Gerald McRaney here in studio. Again, I am a huge fan of your work. And when I heard that you were available to come in, I'm like, absolutely. So let me just dive in right now with NCIS Los Angeles and just looking at your career, playing roles on television and things of that nature. I don't see too many sports titles in any of this. Did you ever have any sort of sports potential?
No, I never played, an athlete of any sort, but Major Dad was a Saints fan because I'm a Saints fan. And
okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and I was one of the producers on the show, and that's, the Major was a Saints fan.
So you had to make sure that, was there anybody who was attempting to make Major Dad and a Falcons fan, and you had to slap them down? You had to stop it in its tracks?
I knew they were developing an episode about missing a football game, and I said, make it the Saints.
So why the Saints? Why is the Saints your team?
My brother, I'm from Mississippi,
yes,
and my brother worked for John Meekum Sr., when the franchise was first bought by John Meekum Jr., and my brother helped negotiate for their practice field, helped in signing some of the original players and things like that. So I've been a Saints fan since before they were Saints, really.
So then when Archie Manning joins the franchise...
And I went to school at Ole Miss.
That's it.
I was there when Archie was there. So
bingo.
Yeah.
So that hit the Gerald McRaney target right there.
Absolutely. That was the trifecta. Really.
So you were there when Archie was on...
Oh, yeah.
Doing his thing.
That was a spectacular thing to see when he was playing at Ole Miss.
Right, because if I'm not mistaken, the miles per hour on campus matched his uniform
18.
Number. That's right. That's
it's
it.
Still, that's the top speed at Ole Miss is 18.
And then, of course, Eli goes there as well.
Yeah.
So did you ever have any sports playing possibility
I played
in your
in
life?
high school, but that was it, I think I weighed maybe 150, 155 pounds.
Yeah.
And I was fairly quick. I could do a 10 flat 100 in those days.
Yes.
We had a guy at Ole Miss who weighed like 280 pounds, could do it in 9.7 or something like that. So theater department looked real good to me.
For you, that's where it was. So how did you get into acting? How did that get started for you?
Actually, that was related to football in a way. I was in junior high school, and I messed up one of my knees, just twisted it badly. But I was out for the season, and my father was in construction. He built houses for a living.
Yes.
Somebody suggested that for me to have something to do in the afternoon, I go help out at the drama club building sets for them and stuff like that. So I did. And they put me in one of their plays, and I sort of liked it and thought, I think I could do this. So since the age of 14, I've sort of known I wanted to be an actor.
And so
I'm still working on it.
You're still working on it for sure. What do you get the most when you're walking around and people see you?
It depends on their age.
Right. So walk me through, what do you get the most then from different age groups or what?
Yeah, it's different age groups. The people on walkers, fans of Simon and Simon.
Simon and Simon.
Then comes Major Dad, and here lately, it'll be people who are fans of Deadwood or NCIS Los Angeles.
You must get some Longmire too, right? Do you get some?
Oh yeah, I get a lot of Longmire fans.
Right, and so I don't know. I mean, I'm 53, and I would give you Simon and Simon too. I don't use a walker or anything like that.
Well, a lot of them do, though.
It's a lot of them do. Okay, well, I'm glad that it's all worked out. We like to play a game here, Gerald McRaney, to sort of touch base on a lot of parts of people's filmography or television-ography, I don't know if that's a word, called Celebrity True or False, where things have been reported or written, and you say if they're true or not, okay?
All right.
Okay, very good. I appreciate you playing it. Here we go, Celebrity True or False with Gerald McRaney, and we also have some great production value. Go ahead and hit it, please.
Celebrity True or False?
You can't handle the truth.
There you go. That's the production value.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. You've been around it. I'm sure you're impressed by the production value. First up for you, Gerald McRaney. True or false? You dropped out of Ole Miss, and then you worked in Louisiana oil fields on offshore rigs in the Gulf of Mexico. Is that true or false?
I've worked both onshore and offshore rigs. I was what's called a mud logger, and that's sort of a half-assed geologist. You keep track of the drill rate and the material that you're drilling through, and you determine whether there's an oil-bearing sand.
Right.
and things like that. But I worked half the year in the oil field and the other half the year in a repertory company in New Orleans. And but working in the oil patch allowed me to afford getting an acting career started.
Were you the only one working in the oil fields pulling such double duty?
Oh, yeah.
Did anybody who worked in the oil fields with you, come watch you and your other job? Did they come check you out?
It's an interesting thing. The first job I had in the oil field was actually working on a survey crew for an oil company.
Uh-huh.
And one of the guys who was on that crew with me had a son who wound up out here in Southern California and got in touch with me when I was doing Major Dad. And I had him come out and sit in the audience and be there for the filming of one of our episodes of Major Dad. But and another guy on that crew actually would hold book for me when we were finished with our work for the day. He would hold book for me, do my audition scenes for the rep company that I wound up joining in New Orleans. So,
and that's what
some very nice people.
And that's what helped get you started.
Oh, yeah. But some great guys in the oil patch down there.
Next one, true or false? You hold the distinction of being the last guest star to meet Matt Dillon in a gunfight and Gunsmoke. Is that
not
true or
a
false?
gunfight, a showdown where we both go for our guns. There was other gunplay in the rest of the episode, but I was the last one to draw against Matt Dillon in the last episode of the 20th year.
How'd that turn out?
Badly for me.
Didn't turn out well, but but you were the last.
But I did beat him.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we're doing the rehearsal, and I had practiced drawing the gun, so I didn't look stupid doing it.
Yes.
But I could only do it at one speed. And we're rehearsing the thing, and Arness is there, and I pulled the gun out, and he was just about to touch his, and he looked at the director and said, "It was a good 20-year run."
Okay, so at least he took it in good humor, right?
Yeah. Oh, that cast, they were such great people. The first episode I did of Gunsmoke, I had a scene with Milburn Stone, and I was nervous as a cat on a hot tin roof. And the scene itself wasn't working, and Milburn Stone thought that it wasn't working as well.
Right.
And he just said to the director, "Let's just stop for a minute." And he took me aside, and we started improvising the scene back and forth. And we came back, and Milburn said, "All right, here's what we're going to do. Just go ahead and roll the cameras."
Go for it.
And we went for it, and it worked. But he sensed my discomfort with the scene and made it work for me. And everybody on that show was that way.
Next up for Celebrity True or False with Gerald McRaney. True or false, you were up for the role of Luke Duke on Dukes of Hazzard. Is that true or false?
Well, in a way, I did an early audition for it, and they asked me to do it again and do it in a really broad way, and I didn't feel comfortable doing that. I think they wanted a really redneck, dumbass Southerner in that audition process. And being, a dumbass Southerner, I rather resented that. So
you didn't say I've done repertory. Come on now.
No,
okay.
no.
So then you were not right for the role, is what you're saying.
No, I wasn't.
Okay. How did you wind up with Simon and Simon then? How did that? Because that was your first long-term gig. There.
A pilot for a series called Gypsy Warriors.
Yes.
That Phil DeGuerre had created. And they did their pilot, and I was up for one of the two leads in it. But they decided to go with some guy named Selleck instead. I don't know why. But anyway, the same guy created Simon and Simon.
Yes.
And they had already hired Jameson Parker. And they had gone through everybody else in Hollywood and New York, and nobody quite fit in. So, scraping the bottom of the barrel, they came to me and asked if I would come over and read with Jameson. And I did. And I think that was on a Wednesday. And the following Monday, I was in Florida shooting the first pilot that we did for it.
And then you did about, 8 years?
8 years.
8 years that was on. And then you went to Major Dad directly from that, right?
Yeah, I think I had 3 months between Simon and Simon and Major Dad. And the producer started out as line producer and wound up executive producer of Simon and Simon was the guy who came up with the concept of Major Dad. So it all worked out perfectly.
Why do you think Major Dad worked, Gerald McRaney?
I think people at that time were ready to embrace the military.
1989 through 93.
Yeah. And one of the reasons that I wanted to do a show like that is I had family people who were career military. And in television throughout the 70s, all you saw was stuff that was like about the crazed Vietnam veteran. Well, I knew a lot of people who served in Vietnam, and, you know, they were not the crazed Vietnam veteran, and they weren't Rambo. They were just ordinary people who had an extraordinary job to do, and they did it. And I wanted to sort of represent that on television.
And that's why you think it worked as well as it did.
Yeah, and I think people were ready for that.
And people are still coming up to you and talking to you about that to this day. Gerald McRaney here on The Rich Eisen Show. I've restrained myself from jumping in about Deadwood from the minute you walked on the set. Because it is truly one of the most remarkable dramas I've ever seen. You joined it midway through.
Well, actually, I was the last episode of the second season, and then came back for the third season,
where you were a real bad man.
I was a son of a bitch.
You sure were.
Yeah.
Playing George Hearst, who is the father of William Randolph Hearst, who is Citizen Kane. And, you know, you came in and just totally upended the town of Deadwood. What was that like for you to join that cast on that show?
That was some of the greatest fun I have ever had.
Fun. I like it.
Oh, yeah. And to be able to do such delicious writing, that was a gift. And every actor on the show will tell you the same thing, that David's writing is what made that show such a joy. And when we came back to do the movie after 15 years, we came back to do a movie. It's an interesting thing. All the actors had their little trailers, you know, outside the stage. But between shots, between setups, between scenes, nobody went back to their trailer. Everybody hung out just off stage to catch up, to just shoot the bull with each other. It was because we missed each other so much, and we missed doing that show so much.
And there was so much anticipation. It sounded because... You know, I was waiting for the film. I was waiting for a fourth season, to be very honest with you. And when you're referring to David, you're referring to David Milch, who wrote the most filthy iambic pentameter in the history of that. I mean, it just, I didn't know words could come out and sound so lyrical and be so filthy as he did. Is it true he was writing new lines literally up to the minute before you had to say them?
Absolutely.
That couldn't have been easy at all for you.
Actually, I found it terribly easy because his writing was a good deal like doing Shakespeare. There was a rhythm to it. And once you caught that rhythm, it was, for me, actually rather easy to learn the dialogue. We had one scene that I had to do that originally was like a page of dialogue. And on the day that we were to shoot it, I'm in makeup, getting ready to go shoot the scene.
Yes.
They bring me a rewrite. I think it was like 5 pages. Most of it was just me talking. And we got through it on the first take. So,
hey.
Again, good words have a tendency to go into your brain easily.
Yes.
Bad writing doesn't. It you know, your brain wants to reject bad writing, and I've had to do some things like that too. And those scenes are hard to learn, but David's writing was easy to learn.
So who was the one that you and I mean, make you choose favorites, but who was the one who you did scenes with where you knew this was going to crackle? Who was it?
Everybody.
Really?
Everybody. But I guess especially Ian, and God bless him, Powers Booth.
May he rest in peace.
May he
Cy
rest
Tolliver.
in peace. Yeah.
Well, he seethed. Every word out of his mouth seethed.
Yes. He was brilliant.
He was.
Yeah.
I know. Well, And then NCIS Los Angeles, again, it is returning to CBS and Paramount Plus on October 9th on Sunday. What's it like for you to be back in the good old procedural crime drama? What's that like for you, Gerald McRaney? What do you got?
Don't let them know, but it's like stealing money.
Well, you might leave fingerprints. That sounds like an episode right there.
Yeah.
It's like stealing money, huh?
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, I'm just looking at the way your career started, where so many procedural dramas that you were in, crime and, Rockford Files back in the day, Police Woman. I mean, like these are some Petrocelli, Beretta. I mean, you were on some of the best
and
back in the 70s.
And all the Quinn Martin shows way back in the day.
Quinn Martin Productions, sure. Yeah.
But I have to say, you mentioned Rockford Files.
Yes, sir. You got a good story
One
there?
of my favorite things about that show.
Yes.
The first one I did, I had a scene to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in my little dressing room, one of, 4 or 5 in a row.
Yeah.
And I had just arrived, and there's a knock on the door, and I thought, geez, can they be ready that quickly?
Mm-hmm.
I opened the door, and there's Jim Garner, who says, "Hey, Hoss, I'm Jim. Just wanted to welcome you to the show. Hope you have fun." That was it. But that was the way that man was. I'm a day player. I'm doing a scene, and he went out of his way to welcome me to his show. Months later, my parents had come out here for a visit, and I arranged for them to have lunch with me at the commissary at Universal, which was a big to-do for them.
Sure.
And I saw that Rockford Files was shooting right across the street from that. And I went over there just to see if Jim was there, and he was. And I knocked on his trailer, and his assistant came and answered the door, said hi to me and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I just wanted to see if Jim was going to have a moment to say hello to my parents. Well, there was an executive in there with Jim who said something to the effect of, "We don't have time for that." To which Jim responded, "Well, we're going to have to make some time, aren't we?" Came out and spent like the next hour with my parents.
Fantastic.
And just kept that executive in there cooling his heels, learning some manners. And I will never forget that as long as I live. He was the finest gentleman I think I've run across in this business. Again, rest his soul. But he was such an outstanding man.
And you must have been, I'm assuming, a fan of Maverick and The Great
Oh, yeah.
Escape and
Oh,
know
yeah.
exactly who that was
Oh, sure.
going into that.
Yeah. He was one of the guys I looked up to when I was, an amateur and just getting started. And I look up to him to this day.
Well, I'm truly a huge fan of your work.
Thank you, sir.
I'm a huge fan, and I can't wait to see more of what you're doing because you just own the screen every time you're on it. And everybody should watch, again, NCIS Los Angeles, 14th season of that program. It premieres Sunday, October 9th, 10 Eastern on CBS and Paramount Plus. I appreciate you coming on.
It's my pleasure.
And before you go out the door, I do need you to sign the Deadwood hat.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll do that when we take a break. The Deadwood hat that has been autographed by everybody that's come through here. Titus Welliver, I left his name out. He came in to promote the latest season of Bosch. I need you to sign it with your favorite curse word.
You got it.
Okay, very good. Gerald McRaney here on The Rich Eisen Show.